Welcome to Retirement Rescue Radio, a show specifically designed to help retirees and pre-retirees maximize their financial efficiency so you can live the retirement lifestyle you've always imagined. Your host is Nate Miller, investment advisor representative and author of the CPR Retirement Rescue Roadmap. Nate discusses thoughts and ideas from some of today's most knowledgeable professionals in the field of finance. He offers strategies along the way to help you make better financial decisions so you can maximize your retirement. This is Retirement Rescue Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Retirement Rescue Radio. I'm your host, Nate Miller, and we've got Josh Miller on with us today, too. How you doing, Josh?
Good. How's everybody out there?
Good. All right, so another episode of Redneck Retirement Radio as well, so that'll be fun. And Josh, what are we going over today? Right as you take a drink, sorry.
Yes, that's all right. The first thing, we're going to go over some of Biden's tax proposals in this new $6 trillion budget deal. But the first thing to clarify...
That's all? $6 trillion?
Yeah, at this point anyway, these are just proposals. None of this is law yet. And there is stuff that he can propose, and there's what can actually go through Congress. So keep that in mind. And math, we're going to be talking some math here today with all these numbers, but math does not have a party affiliation.
That's a good quote.
Yeah.
I like that.
I didn't get it. I didn't come up with it. So
okay.
I'd like to take credit.
You recognize a good quote when you hear one. But yes, right. and I like that. Math does not have a party affiliation because I think that goes along the lines of something I've said in the past, that the person with the facts will never be at the mercy of the person with an opinion. And math doesn't have an opinion either. It's just numbers. It's the facts. And so, yeah, we're going to go through a few things with math, and I'll probably allude to some other conversations that I had in regards to taxes as well. And spoiler alert, we're probably going to get on a little bit of a rant today, because anytime we start talking about taxes, I do get on rants. And so I'm going to say sorry, not sorry about that, because I know there's a lot of you out there that do feel the same way. So we want to, pay what we need to pay to keep everything going, infrastructure, you name it. But we want to also pay the least amount that we're legally obligated to pay. Now, I think it was the justice, what was his name? Learned Hand back in the 30s. He had a quote that I'm going to kind of butcher, I bet right now, that it says that you do not need to arrange your affairs in such a way that benefits the Treasury. There is not even a patriotic duty to do so. So that means you can arrange your affairs in the way that most benefits you, and so you can pay the least amount of tax that you're legally obligated to pay. So there's our intro, I guess, into this. So I guess, Josh, you got a few things you want to ask me about this, so I guess we'll go ahead.
Yeah, so the first thing to discuss in his proposal is the top individual tax rate increasing from 37% to just under 40%. So on the surface, it would seem like a 3% increase, but really, that's almost 10%, right? I mean, and it doesn't affect a huge swath of the population, but for the part of the population that it does affect, it's a really big increase. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're going to go back to this different way of looking at the math, like what you just mentioned, right? We're going to have that a couple times throughout this episode, because when you first look at it on the surface, 37 to let's just call it 40, 39.6, whatever, right? Let's just call it 40. So on the surface, yeah, you're like, oh, that's not that big a deal. It's a 3% increase. But no, when you do the math about the additional tax that you're going to pay as a result of that 3% increase, no, that's a 10% increase, because, almost a 10%. So you're looking at 37 to 40, that's 3%, right? 3% is almost 10% of 37, right? So that's why maybe it's 7 to 8%, somewhere around there. But yeah, so that's a much more than that 3%. So just think about that. The bigger those numbers get, the bigger the actual impact is going to be on us. So, but yeah, I do agree with the comment there. It doesn't affect a ton of people. It is the top tax rate that's changing. He's not messing with any of the other tax rates that were lowered as part of the 2017's Tax Cut and Job Act. He's not touching those rates. So yeah, it's not going to touch as many people. So he says he's not going to raise taxes on anybody making under than $400,000. And with this proposed change, he does keep that promise.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, how about this one? The proposed corporate tax rate would increase from 21% to 28%. Now, how might that affect things? You're not yourself. You're not an advisor to corporations, Nate. You're an advisor to individuals. So how do you help them navigate their own investments in light of that potential corporate tax increase?
That's a good one. And once again, I'm going to use those different perspectives on math. 21 to 28. Now, granted, when the Tax Cuts and Job Act went into place, it took it from 35 down to 21. So that was a significant decrease. But going from 21 to 28, once again, that is not a 7% increase. That is a 33% increase. 7 goes into 21, basically 3 times. That's a 33% increase. So if we start thinking about that in terms of corporations, if a corporation is being taxed on, let's say, $1 million, then they were paying $210,000 in corporate tax. And if it goes up to 28, they're going to be paying $280,000. So that's a $70,000 increase. You were paying 210. So 70,000 extra dollars when you were paying $210,000 in taxes is a 33% increase in your tax, not a 7% increase. And so and this goes back to really the fundamentals and where do you want to see the dollar? I talked a little bit about this whole principle in one of my past episodes here recently of, do you believe that it is morally or ethically right for a governing body to tax someone up to like 50% of their income? Anybody. That doesn't mean just, corporations or individuals, billionaires, the guy next door, the blue collar worker at the factory. Anybody. Should anybody pay 50% of their income to the government? Anybody. So that's a moral question you got to ask yourself. So, but let's say that let's go a step further, and let's say that the tax rates stay lower at the 210, and the companies are able to keep that extra. In my example, it's that extra $70,000, right? And just multiply that. There, every $1 million more you're taxed on, that would be another $70,000 extra they're going to be paying, right? And when a company has an extra dollar, there's a few things that they can do with it. One, they could keep it, right? They could just keep it on the books, and that would increase the book value of the company. And guess what that might do to that company's stock if they're a publicly traded stock? It goes up, right? Or they could pay it out in a dividend. And once again, if you are a shareholder of that public company, a lot of these companies that this is going to affect, you probably have inside your 401ks or your IRAs or your 403bs, right? If you've got a tech mutual fund, it's probably got Apple and it's got Microsoft in there. It's going to have, name some other ones, Josh. I'm blanking all of a sudden. So is that?
Salesforce.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of these technology stocks in there. And they're all publicly traded. If you own a share of their stock, you are a shareholder. And so you could increase your share price by them keeping it on the books. But if they pay it out in a dividend, guess what? You now receive a dividend. And most people have their dividends set to just reinvest into that same stock. And so now you have more shares of this stock that could be going up because they have more money that they're keeping. So they can keep it, pay it out in dividends, or they could invest it back in the business. And investing back in the business could go a number of different ways. Maybe they invest back in for research and development to create new and better products, and then therefore increase their market share and increase the price of the stocks, right? Or they could invest in employees, right? That $70,000 per $1 million of profit, that could go to hiring another employee. And so then that expands the business. Maybe they buy new plants, new factories, and they expand the business. And once again, bring in more revenue and cause the price of the share of the stock to go up. And so this guys, rich people stocks, when rich people stocks go up, poor people stocks go up too. Same stock. It doesn't matter if a rich person owns it or a poor person owns it. It goes up regardless. And so the idea is, who do you want to have that dollar? Do you want the corporations to have that dollar, or do you want Washington to have that dollar? And I'm going to rant a little bit here on this whole class envy thing again, because it is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. So there's a big story going on that Amazon didn't pay any tax, right? Amazon, billionaire, didn't pay any tax, all right? Yeah, they did. Yes, they did. They paid a lot in tax. You're just focusing on the wrong area, or you're just believing what some politician said, even though they may not have all of the information either. They heard somebody else say something and then they ran with it. That's not the truth. So business works in like a few different ways. So one, as Amazon was growing, it's no secret that for a long time, Amazon didn't make any money. they lost money. They were investing and investing. And there's stuff in the tax law called capital loss carry forward. So if you have a lot of loss and you don't have any income to offset some of that loss, well, you have the ability to carry that forward to future years. And so when Amazon's finally making profits, they're probably eating into years and years and years of losses that have been on the books. And so when they have all these quote profits and they don't pay any tax, well, it's because they spent all this time creating the infrastructure so that you can see that little van with a smiley face on it run by your house and drop off all your stuff. All right. Sorry, that was definitely ranty right there. So they're paying tax. Not only that, how many people does Amazon employ? According to, what is it, Statista.com or Statista, however you say that, right? They employ about 798,000 people. Now they're going to have people that are working there all the time, and they're going to have, seasonal employees like FedEx and UPS. They have seasonal employees. I know because I actually worked there for a little while when I was in college. And so then that seasonal workers kind of drags down the average, but also I figured out what the average salary, I guess, including all of those seasonal workers was for an Amazon worker. And it's almost $30,000. It's like $29,007 is what it is. And I believe that comes from businessinsider.com. And so let's think about this. So that income tax, yeah, there's a lot of capital loss carry forward that might eat into that. And so maybe they don't pay any federal income tax or state income tax, depending on that. But how much did they pay in FICA tax? Y'all know that we pay as if you're an employee, you pay 6.2% to Social Security, you pay another 1.45 to Medicare, right? So Josh, numbers correct there?
Yeah.
Yep. And then so as an employer though, the employer pays the other 6.2 plus 1.5. So every amount that you as an employee pay into FICA, your employer has to match that exact same amount. And so based on the 798,000 people earning about $29,000 on average, that means that in FICA tax alone, Amazon is paying $1.77 billion. B with a B, exactly. $1.77 billion in just FICA tax. And they're actually, if you think about that, that's creating another 1.77 billion in FICA tax that the employees are paying as well. So that's over like almost, was it 3.4, almost 3.5-ish billion dollars that is going to the two biggest line items on the federal like debt, right? Unfunded liabilities and stuff like that. Medicare and Social Security are the biggest line items. And so that money is going straight to the biggest line items of our country's government, right? So there's that. Not only that, but think about all those happy packages that we all buy and love to have delivered to our door. There's sales tax whenever we buy stuff like that. And based on the average sales tax, according to AARP across the entire country, average sales tax is somewhere around 7.2%, which means, Josh, here in Lawrence, I'm paying way too much in sales tax. Our sales tax with like state and local is like 9.3%.
Yeah, we're not far behind. We're at the 9.1 to 9.2.
2% higher than the national average. What the heck, man? And we're 50th in the state in tourism. So what are we paying for? Obviously, there's not cool stuff here, right? So yeah. So that 7.2% times the gross annual, the revenue that they had of about 386 billion means about almost 28 million, actually $28 million of sales tax that is going back to the different states for people buying those packages that come in the van with a smiley face on it. Amazon's paying taxes, right? Just don't believe blanketly what you hear because the politician has an agenda, right? Actually go to sources that verify this stuff, or not even go to sources that verify it. You verify it by doing the digging yourself. And then you can understand what's really happening. And so once again, this class envy of trying to pit billionaires against the average Joe, right, is just ridiculous because it's like we're all mad, or actually the bully is beating us up, taking half our lunch money, and we're mad at our buddy because he only got 10% of his lunch money stolen. And it's the bully that's telling us that we should be mad at our buddy.
Let's see, you just went over that on another podcast here that came out at the end of June. It was Too Much Tax.
Yeah, I'm not over it yet, apparently.
But maybe I'll go check that episode out if you're listening to this one too, or watching.
Yeah. So that I can never get behind that argument. And also, I think in that same tax episode, I also mentioned that when you look at how much tax is paid by the top 50% of income earners, it's 97%. 97% of all the revenue that the federal government gets from taxes comes from the top 50%. Only 3% comes from the bottom 50. So they are paying their fair share, right? They're paying more really than their fair share at this point, based on those numbers. So Josh, take me off and give me the next topic before I continue.
Right. All right. The next thing on the list that we're going to discuss about the Biden tax proposals. Remember, not law yet, just proposals. So the top capital gains rate would almost double from 20% to 39.6. Now that without even having to explain it is huge. That's almost a 100% increase.
Exactly. I don't think I even need to elaborate on that anymore. So yeah, you sum that up. And then once again, that's going to hit people that are at the $400,000 of income and more. And yeah, that's exactly right. He wants to tax capital gains just like ordinary income. And so, yeah, that would be a doubling of the top capital gains tax rate because of that. And that is just insane. Grant, what were you going to say there?
I was like, but that 400,000, you mentioned this in a prior episode, that 400,000, it could be you if you have a inheritance or anything like that puts you over that 400,000 mark in 1 year, then you would be subject to that.
Yeah. If there's some kind of a sale of any type of property that happens, whether that's farm, whether that's house, rental property, vacation home, whatever it is, if you have that sale and that bumps you with all your other income that you've got coming in, that bumps you up over that $400,000 tier, crest, whatever, then yeah, that means you are now defined by the federal government as, quote, rich. It hit you. And I've got people that have $1 million and they look at me and said, Nate, I don't feel like a millionaire. It's like, well, because you've been frugal and saved money your entire life in order to have that $1 million. And now that you have it and you're retiring, your money personality isn't just magically going to switch. You're not going to turn into a spendthrift for the remaining 30 years of your life. That's not going to happen. You're going to stay frugal. It's my job to help you understand you can loosen the purse strings a little bit. You're, like I said, you're still not going to go wild and crazy, but to actually be able to enjoy it, that's what I have to help by designing the plans to give you the confidence that you actually can spend it. So yeah, it's people above $400,000 of income, but that could be more people than you think.
Yeah, and this last tax proposal we'll talk about today, and then we'll touch on what the tax proposals could do to the deficit and the debt level. But that last capital gains rate or gains tax doubling, it could also really, really affect you, because this last one is a proposal to get away with or do away with the stepped up in basis. And most of the population, they may not know really what that means, but a lot of people have experienced it. And once you explain it here in a second, they'll say, oh yeah, I did benefit from that. Wait, that might go away?
Yeah. So this one, I feel like with the one that we just touched on, is almost like a 1-2 punch, because they are affecting the same type of income, or the same type of like property income, sales and stuff like that you can get. So this stepped up in basis, what the heck is that? Well, let's say almost every single person that has a parent has probably benefited from this. Everyone. So guys, this is not a rich person tax. This is not. So when Biden says that he's says that he's not going to raise taxes on anybody making under $400,000, this one right here blows that one out of the water. And this is also one of those things that's like, we feel like some of these, including this one particularly, are so far out there, they're so extreme that he's not actually expecting to get that. It's almost like the tactic of, I'm going to put my home up for sale for $1 million because I know we're going to negotiate, and I know we're going to get down to a point to where that's actually what I wanted to get for it anyway, or maybe that's more like, my house isn't worth $1 million. So maybe that's more like when you're haggling with a car price, right? It's like you start off shooting super low, and in that case, right, because you know that eventually you're going to come and meet somewhere in the middle, which makes both of you a little happier. And so with this one, the step up in basis, let's say you have a parent, which we all have parents, and a lot of you that are listening to this, if you are of retirement age, then this is going to be you, and your kids are going to have to deal with this. And so if you have a house and you bought it for $50,000, and throughout the 30 or 40 years that you owned it, it is now $550,000. Let's completely ignore the whole, primary home and get away from that, because now that you pass away and the kids get that. Well, if they sold that, remember you bought it for 50, it grew to 550,000. So that's $500,000 of gain that happened in that house. Under the current rules, the step up in basis means that basis is now stepped up to 550. So they don't have to pay gain on that $500,000, which means if they literally sold it the same day you pass away, or even like the same year, there's no appreciation or whatever that happens after that, fair market value is still 550. They pay zero tax, zero on that asset, right? And so if Biden does away with that, that means that they will now have to pay tax on that $500,000 gain. They will. So that is a huge thing. And that's going to, like I said, that's going to affect everybody pretty much. Almost everybody. That's not a rich person tax. So, I mean, you think about a house that maybe it's worth $200,000 right now, and maybe your parents bought it for $100,000. That extra $100,000, you'll have to pay tax on that if that goes away. So once again, not a rich person tax, guys. But that, like I said, that's going to affect so many people. That's one of those things where we don't actually think that that's going to go through, right? So I think I beat that horse pretty much right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And the biggest thing to understand about all these potential changes in the tax code is that some of them, whichever ones get passed or whatever, they could happen toward the end of this year and be in place for 2022 and beyond. So it's not something you really want to wait for until these changes are made, and then you have to scramble to adjust your portfolio or your plan or whatever you're doing accordingly. It's like you need to go ahead and call us, set a meeting. We'll have our Calendly link for Nate to talk with you here in the show notes. So, but once you have your framework in place, it's going to be a lot easier to make those adjustments once any of these changes really do get enacted. So it's really better sooner than later, I guess.
Definitely. Sooner is always better than later. The old saying goes, when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, probably 10 years ago, but when's the second best time? Today. Yeah. It's like, let's not worry about, we waited too long and think, oh, woe is me. It's like, let's just realize, oh, well, the second best thing I can do is start now.
Yeah. So let's take a step back and get a 30,000-foot view, a little bit bigger picture on what some of these changes could do to the U.S. debt and the deficit.
All right. Well, first off, this is a $6 trillion budget, right? And for a while now, we've been running on about $4 trillion. And so this is basically, I guess, adding a little bit more. The deficit, they say, is going to rise anywhere from about $1.3 to $1.8 trillion a year. And that means that the debt is going to reach $30 trillion here in a couple of years. And that's, it kind of just perpetuates the idea of let's just spend more than what we bring in. And Biden has even said it's like he believes that this is a sustainable trajectory. And I'm like, how sustainable would it be if we chopped off a bunch of those zeros of the federal budget, right? And what the tax revenue is coming in. And if we operated at a deficit every single year as an individual household, how long would that be sustainable? It's like, and how do they plan on financing it? Yeah, well, with debt and the debt, it's just going to keep on increasing, right? It's going to raise the deficit levels. They're going to have to raise taxes in order to make up for that, and eventually. And so we don't know when they're going to do that. I mean, we know that in 2026, the taxes are going to go up if nothing's done. We do know that because that's when the Tax Cuts and Job Acts expire. But if we're sitting here thinking that tax rates are not going to rise in the future, then we're not paying attention. And it's going to happen. They're not going to raise taxes on just the rich. The rich won't be able to do it, right? It's like they need more. They won't be able to raise taxes just on the corporations. They're going to have to start raising taxes on the individuals, the people that they say that they're not going to raise taxes on, or middle America. It's going to have to raise on everybody. Remember, the top 50% already pay 97% of all the taxes that the federal government collects. The bottom 50% only pays 3%. So there's a lot more room in that bottom 50% to have it increase than there is in the top. Granted, there's a lot more dollars in the top too, but still, it's like they can't tax the rich and the corporations enough in order to pay for all that. Here's an idea. How about they cut spending?
No way.
Yeah. There is nothing as permanent as a temporary government solution or
Ronald
temporary
Reagan.
government program. Sorry. Was that Ronald Reagan? Who was it?
That was Ronald Reagan.
That was Ronald Reagan. Okay. Yeah. He's got a lot of those good things. And so this could be another reason to take a look at your tax liability in retirement and see if something could be right for you. Roth conversions, you name it, moving something from this tax deferred status where it's just sitting there waiting to be a big ticking tax time bomb, and have Uncle Sam get their hands on it in whatever tax rate they decide to vote in when you have to start pulling it out, right? Or we start moving some of that to some tax-free areas, because even if tax rates double, 2 times 0 is still 0. And it's always good to have that tax diversification, have a tax-free bucket that you can pull from in retirement without increasing your taxable income. That's really what needs to happen in order to be diversified from a tax standpoint, not just an investment standpoint.
All right. I think that's it for today. Where can they ask you a question if this has really got them on a rant and they want to rant with us? Where do they put in their comments and questions? Yep.
So ask Nate at retirementrescueradio.com. Whether you agreed with everything I said here or disagreed with what I said here, or if you're watching this on YouTube and you hate my pink shirt, whatever. So, I mean, guys don't wear enough pink. Guys look good in pink. I'm going to say that right now. And once again, I'm in a polo right now because it's Kansas and it's hot. So we have a planning day. So there's no meetings today. So I'm going to be in a polo. I'm going to be a little more comfortable. Won't have to be in the full sport coat. All right. So yes, ask Nate at retirementrescueradio.com for any of those questions. And we like to have healthy discussions, and we're going to use facts, not opinions, on it. And we welcome all viewpoints simply because it's not necessarily an argument to find out whether or not, someone is right or wrong. It's an argument. It's a discussion. It's not really an argument. It's a discussion to understand someone's point of view. And the way I look at it is, if we have a discussion and somebody's point of view is able to uncover something that I haven't thought of yet and point me to sources that I have not seen yet that actually can change my mind, I'm open to that. And so that's what we need to get back to as a country, is having that open mind and the willingness to discuss topics, not argue topics, discuss why you have this viewpoint. And sometimes if someone has a certain viewpoint, the reason they might have that viewpoint, that could be what's in error. It's like a lot of times when I was growing up and going from younger to older, I always seemed like I would have a problem with, and when I say problem with authority, I don't mean that I hated cops and stuff like that, but if a constructive criticism or feedback, right, as people like to call it when you're on a job, I would always get very, very defensive when someone would have some type of a constructive feedback. And the more books I read on success and business and stuff like that started making me think, what? Am I actually replying, or am I responding to those things correctly? Basically, for who I want to be in the future, would that type of person respond the way that I did? And so I started thinking about how I was thinking about certain things and was able to adjust accordingly. And that's what we need. We need to have that open mind of, well, am I thinking about this correctly? Is there maybe some information that I don't have that could cause me to have a different opinion on something? Based on facts again. So there we go.
All right.
Any parting words of wisdom there, Josh?
If you're in Kansas, try to stay cool.
All right.
So, and actually today we're recording this. It is your son Tennyson's 8th birthday. So happy birthday to Tennyson.
He is. Yeah. This will come out here in a couple of weeks. So happy belated birthday, right?
Yeah.
So he's at a summer camp right now. So I'm able to record this. All right.
All right.
Well, guys, once again, ask Nate at retirementrescueradio.com. Our Calendly link is going to be in the subscription, or in the subscription to that. Calendly link is going to be in the description, or in the comments if this is on the iTunes area. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and do a roundhouse kick to the subscribe button and maybe a jab punch to the notification bell so you can always get updated whenever we bring out new content, guys. And we're here to help you live the retirement that you deserve. So take care. We'll see you next week.
Take care.